Welcome to Framework. It's John, one of the hosts of Framework. With me, as always, the other host of Framework, Al.
Hey, John. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm fantastic. There's a new Guardians of the Galaxy movie out. The Volume 3, the final in the trilogy, such as it is, just released out in theaters.
My stepson thought it was kind of a bummer. You seem very up and happy about it.
Yeah, I was happy about it. And, I mean, in part because it was such a bummer. I kind of like that. Wow, a lot of monsters in this. And a lot of, sympathetic monsters that you then see destroyed. That's sort of the main takeaway, I would say. Wow, there's a lot of tear-jerking monster death in this film. I mean, are they even monsters, I guess, is sort of part of the question as well. I would say yes, they are.
I mean, they're clearly supposed to be lovable, but I couldn't really engage with that part of it because I was like, no, yeah, these are freaking monstrosities that should be put out of their miseries. Like, I'm sorry, Linda Cardellini has a very lovely voice, but just look at that freaking rabbit spider robot thing and just burn it,
My understanding, if I'm reading what I saw visually there, that is a rabbit that is paralyzed, essentially, none of her limbs work. And but she has mental control over spider legs that have been grafted to her spine, and gets around that way.
Metal spider legs, yes.
Yeah, that's that's great. I love that. I think that's really fun.
I liked it in theory. In practice, whenever they were on screen, I was kind of like, let's get them out of here.
They're in it a lot. They're like half the movie.
They are. They're a ton of it.
I thought that was cool. I thought that was great. But okay. Anyway, so larger picture, Guardians movies. I think these are among the more popular of the MCU. Among my personal favorites, yours too, I believe, especially the first one.
The first one still ranks at the top of the Marvel heap for me, and I do think meaning it's genuinely one of the best all around blockbusters of the last decade. Of which the top 4 or 5 Marvel movies are that for me, but it's been a rougher road post Endgame. As we talked about, with multiple movies so far, and this something happened there. I mean, several things happened as we've sort of gone over, but it was always going to be a challenge, sort of resetting the field after Endgame, and originally Guardians 3 was supposed to be the first movie after Endgame. Right. But that got derailed by the whole James Gunn bad tweets, firing, unfiring, rehiring thing before, but also having him hired by the competition.
Yeah. In retrospect, a stupid mess. And
yes.
Yeah, it cost everyone probably a lot. Shouldn't have done it.
It means this movie arrived 3 years late, basically.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that doesn't matter, really. I mean, this is not connected to the larger stuff. Gunn says that the script hasn't changed in 6 years, which I find a little hard to believe, considering the events of Infinity War and Endgame. But maybe he knew about those in advance. Maybe this was always the plan.
Presumably he will be told major events that would impact how the state of play for going into this movie before he started writing it.
But does this movie have Thor in it if it comes out right after Endgame? It kind of has to,
I guess it does.
Who knows? Who knows?
And how does that work? Does Thor? No, we don't have time to go into that. Look, I do think, and I've heard conflicting things about whether I've heard that James Gunn really did not like how the Guardians were handled in Infinity War and Endgame, and I've heard that he also wrote all their dialogue for those movies. So
we're not going to get a real answer on that at any point.
No, of course not.
I mean, it is the state of affairs that in between Guardians 2 and Guardians 3, one of the Guardians has been killed and brought back in a strange fashion. Mm-hmm. Peter Quill, the Chris Pratt character, has actively contributed to the death of half the people in the universe, and is seeking, I don't know, at least some form of redemption or catharsis from that. I get the sense they can't spend too much time on that, but it is mentioned.
And what kind of redemption? I mean, okay, you made a mistake. It's very dumb, but
it all worked out. Yeah, it all worked out.
Also, what do you want? What lesson are you supposed to learn? Oh, I shouldn't get quite so angry when the love of my life is murdered. I don't know. What use of that is to anybody, in the audience or on the screen.
It's it's contributing to his state of being at the beginning of the film, which is sort of a sort of black misery, pit of self pity, and yeah, I love the opening actually. When they're pulling him out of a bar, like dead drunk, and Drax is like, again. That's great. That's a good way to set the table at the beginning. Of the
we open with the acoustic version of "Creep" by Radiohead. Moving the soundtrack is such a big part of the flavor of these movies, and we've moved up decades from the 70s into the 80s, and now we're I guess this is mostly the 90s, but we're into the 2000s at the end.
Yeah, it's not set in time, but I would say that the theme is more 90s. There is, canonically, it is all coming off of a Zune remote player that had been found at the last film. So yeah, it would be of a later decade, and you get Lawrence and the Machine shows up in this. It's not all tied to that.
It's not hard and fast either, because you're right. There's some heart in there too, and the best musical moment of the whole thing is with "Don't Sleep Till Brooklyn" from the 80s. Yeah. So yeah, no, I don't mean it's hard and fast. I just mean we're sort of drifting forward in time. We're pulling from farther forward in time as the series progresses. And I mean, Radiohead, obviously, particularly in their creep mode, places you in a very specific era.
Well, creep's kind of been ever present for the last 30 years.
Sure, the Social Network trailer brought it back.
I feel like that's the Radiohead song. They're just like, you can have that one. Yeah, just do whatever. Yeah.
They're kind of over that one. I don't know. They're not as precious. You would think Tom York would be very precious with his artistic babies and not, but they put one of their albums on the Twilight soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
One of their tracks.
Fake Plastic Trees appears in Entourage at one point. I remember distinctly. It's, they'll sell that shit. I feel like they'll sell pre-Kid A shit, or maybe no one wants anything post-Kid A. I don't know.
The Twilight track is from In Rainbows. That's what this stuck with me because I've seen a quarter of that movie, but the end credits started rolling, and I was like, "Are you shitting me? What?" They did this, and also why did the filmmakers think that this was something their audience would give a shit about? Well, questions remain unanswered, but this is not a Twilight podcast. This is a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 podcast.
I would say I would have got more excited if it was any other Radiohead song at this point, but still.
Oh, for sure. But the idea of these soundtracks is not you're pulling deep cuts or anything. It's always, it should never be, I think the conceit Gunn is going for is it should never be a song that you've never heard before. It's always, I haven't heard that song in a while,
Maybe you don't recognize that is also not true of Creep, but sure. Karma Police. Putting Karma Police, just even something off.
It's a version you might not have heard before.
It's the one without fuck in it, so it's probably the one that everyone's heard before. It's in a commercial, I imagine, at this point. Sorry.
Maybe.
It's fine. I'm happy the Radiohead's in the movie.
Yeah. So Star-Lord is depressed, and he's depressed about Gamora, who was killed in Infinity War, and a past version of her that doesn't remember because she didn't experience any of the time with the Guardians. So she's still more of like a Black Hat character, is now running around in their universe thanks to the Time Stone shenanigans. And I kind of liked this whole storyline and how it was handled, and jumping to the end that they don't get back together. She doesn't even get back with the Guardians at the end.
Yeah, the end is she appears to have found her people somewhere else, which is, I thought, pretty cool. With the Ravagers.
Okay, that's one nitpick I have there. I did not really like how sappy and loving the Ravagers were when they got her back. I would have preferred a little bit of they're greeting her and happy to see her, but in their own gruffer way, and maybe she's it's feeling a little bit of doubt. It's nice that those other people are nice. Or
making a thematic point, and I don't know. I like the psychic snake monster giving her an affectionate hug at the end. I think that's funny as well.
I did too. Okay, I like the snake monster a lot, but
yeah, he's great.
I want more contrast between the Ravagers and the Guardians. I think that the Guardians as a kinder, gentler version of the Ravagers is sort of the only point of having Ravagers around. But so I was kind of disappointed that she wasn't back with the Guardians at the end, but I think in a good way. That I think that is intentional. I'm glad they didn't have her back together with Star-Lord as a romantic coupling.
Oh, that would have been bad. And whether or not that was originally the plan for this arc, I don't care, because it feels like this specific thing, the MCU, this franchise, 30 plus films, rolling with the punches effectively is, I think, the best thing you can do. I think that
For sure.
they had a plot for Gamora that really worked for the Infinity War film. It was a big part of it, big necessary thing that she died in that. And that's the sort of thing that can happen in these big crossover events, and you kind of have to just roll with the hand you're dealt in comics. And they did here in like a way that, well, it found a new way for Star-Lord to have a complete character arc over the films, and it felt real. Oddly enough, a weird thing to say about a film like this, but that I didn't feel shortchanged at all by that.
Well, it felt real, but also in the way that it felt like the most pure comic booky part of this. The fact that this...
a lot of this felt pretty comic booky.
Yeah, this mainline story has this weird set of circumstances forced upon it by the big crossover event that we now have to like kind of do fallout and clean up for back in the main title. It felt very familiar from reading comic books in the 90s.
Yes.
And I think the realness comes from Gunn resisting tidying it up neatly.
Yeah, loved that. And it must have been it almost feels like Gamora is brought back as an ongoing character in Endgame so they could kind of present Guardians, be like, see, everything's just like we left it. You can just pick up right where you left off, and he doesn't do that. He takes the new state of affairs into consideration in writing these characters. Gamora is functionally a different character. The performance is different. I that's fun for the actress, but it's also fun for, I think, the audience to kind of like, recontextualize it within the broader narrative of all of these films. Which, I don't know. I feel like that, the smart money would be you'd kind of want to avoid that, but I think they got to lean into what they're actually doing here. That's a feature, not a bug.
It turns out to be sort of a boon to this, that she is a different character and that she is a much pricklier character that doesn't, is actively screaming that, no, I don't want to be drafted back into the mold of the character you guys know. Because otherwise the Guardians have sprawled out and become such a big, open, gooey, happy family that there's not... Nebula doesn't even have that much character conflict with these other people. You have the classic conflict of Drax makes people frustrated because he's a dummy. But they get about all they can out of that here, and there's not too much more blood on that stone.
No, they kind of like put an end to it, really. It's just like, well, this is the last we can really do this. Which I guess is true because Bautista says he's out, but I don't fully believe that. Never.
Who knows?
Well,
for another example, like Rocket is now the pet that everybody loves. In Volume 2 is all about he was pushing everybody away and blah blah blah, but now everybody's he's their best friend.
I loved all this. Yeah, those are the two characters that are around for the through the blip. God, we're getting into the nerd waters real fast here. Nebula and Rocket. And I think both of those were best served by their by what happened in those Russo films. They bring the luggage of those with them, the baggage rather, into this movie effectively. Nebula had an incredible arc over her time in the MCU, I think. And it's also good that Gamora is different and pricklier now because Nebula is not anymore.
Yeah, they can still get to be a contrast, but in reverse of the way they were in Volume 2, for example.
That's cool. That's so neat. And Karen Gillan might be MVP of this whole thing. Honestly, she's so fucking good in this role.
I think it's so easy at this juncture to start to take Dave Bautista for granted.
Yeah, he's pretty good too.
The character doesn't operate in a super broad spectrum of, dramatics or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's very important as the glue, and I think Palm Clementieff, I don't know how to say her last name, but is phenomenal in this. I was taken aback, like, man, how did they snuck by me when Mantis became such a core part of the Marvel universe.
She's very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
All that kind of happens slowly through the through all the various things she's appeared in, including the holiday special up to this point.
Yeah.
And that they can just write her as I don't know, a co-lead. I don't know. I don't know how you break down the screen time arcs or whatever. This feels like 6 co-leads, totally. I guess Rocket is number 1 on the call sheet.
Except he's in a coma for 2/3 of the movie.
It's weird. It's a weird structure. That's another thing I like about these movies. Weird structures usually. Aside from the first movie, classic structure there. But 2 and 3, weird. And
but even it's got the weird. It's got the oddball touches. It's got the dance finale thing, and my favorite bit of Drax just drunk dialing the bad guy and telling him to come over here. We need a second act action sequence. Get your ass over here.
It's a pretty fantastic piece of filmmaking, that first Guardians. But I don't know. I've really responded to the sequels being so distinct and unusual and potentially off-putting. Both of them. Yeah. This one especially. I feel like this knows it's going to lose 15 to 20% of the audience. It's animal cruelty, major plot line, and it goes for it. This feels like a guy who's started in Troma made this. All these beasts, these revolting beasts, kind of feel like they came out of New Jersey.
Yeah, but I want more prosthetics out of them. They're the CGI-ness can't really like I say. I find even like the good ones kind of off-putting, but even the ones that are supposed to be the bad guys and gross ones don't. Mm-hmm. They don't feel real to me at all. Enough to elicit disgust.
You didn't like the what was it, like a bear with a squid for a head? That was pretty cool. That was great.
No, it's a fine idea. Yeah. And like I said, but if that was tactile, if that was a puppet, then it would actually gross me out. Mm-hmm. But as a CGI creation with that sheen on it, I just go, oh, okay. That's an oddball design.
Well, it's not actually a Troma film. I mean, it's, trying to make $1 billion worldwide is the goal for something like this, I would imagine.
No, I'm not saying it. I'm not saying that's what the movie should be, but that does seem to be kind of what the goal is with some of those creatures.
For sure it is. Yeah.
So I don't know if it's entirely successful there. I mean, there's elements of this. I think I put this in third place of the Guardians movies for me, because Volume 2 has been inching up for me over time.
Well, I love 2. 2 is my favorite, which is weird, I guess. But I don't know where this stands, is the truth. I kind of have to sit with this one. I think it's probably third as well, but by a hair. I'm really, really pleased with it, and it feels of a piece with them and a worthy finale. But I am excited to kind of revisit it and see where it moves up or down in my estimation, because this felt good. This was nice. I mean, look, I've been on this show. If you've listened to our previous Marvel one, I'm the guy who's like, I actually really liked Love and Thunder. Quantumania, pretty fun. I like the ones people hate for the most part. So, but I don't have to be in full apologist mode for this one. I feel like this one's success is kind of like a little bit more self-evident, even as I know people won't all embrace this.
No, for sure. And look, I think we were kind of in the same mode with both Love and Thunder and Quantumania. We were both like, yeah, those are okay. They're pretty good. And then at least, film literati, nerd consensus seems to be that those are abominations.
Yeah.
And particularly with Love and Thunder, that it somehow like exposed Taika Waititi as a fraud, and he's like this horrible thing. I'm like, whoa. Settle down, people. Like, Ragnarok is still one of the best Marvel movies and one of the best pure comedies of the last century. Like, and I've seen the arguments that, oh yeah, but he didn't write that one. I'm like, bullshit, he didn't. Like, it's got his fingerprints all over it. It's Taika Waititi through and through, and the good stuff about it comes directly out of him. And Love and Thunder just has all that same stuff with the, just the ingredients slightly out of balance, and it's just not quite as good.
Yeah, it's a little messy. I mean, I've been resistant to rewatching it just because everyone hates it so much, and I don't want to be back. Yeah, everyone was right. But now I do want to watch it again. I'm curious, kind of reset my own base level a little bit with these films, because I still do enjoy going to them. And this one did kind of step it up a little, though. This one felt like it used to feel going to these, where it was kind of more of an event, more of a party to go check one of these out on screen. And maybe it's just the characters, maybe it's the gun, but it felt like we were back in the sure hands again here.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I guess we've said this. This is the best of the Marvel movies since Endgame, for sure. I would say.
I'd say since Infinity War myself, but yes.
I
won't
think
quibble.
This is.
I won't quibble. I like it more.
Okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, well, okay, fine, but obvious. Look, Endgame makes a better demarcation point.
Yeah,
obviously.
Okay, fine.
So there's this and No Way Home. I think are the most successful of them.
Mm-hmm.
I would say this is better than No Way Home.
Yeah.
Primarily because, and this is the problem. Like with for as good as this movie is, I don't know that it does a ton to salvage like Phase 5, or if we're into Phase 6 now, I can't keep track.
This is 5.
Yeah. But I don't know it does much to salvage that because
really.
It feels removed from everything else. It is closing off the Guardians trilogy and doing that quite well, but it's not really seeding anything for future Marvel movies. It's not incorporating...
I think Adam Warlock will show up in the Kang Dynasty in the murder world or whatever they're doing. I think
sure he could, but there's no... You don't get the sense from this that he's being introduced to be in other stuff the way that you do when Ironheart shows up in Wakanda Forever.
You don't get the sense that he's important or interesting at all, really.
No, he seems really tacked on, actually. Let me finish this other thought first, I guess.
Yeah, we'll get to that more.
It's also, this feels very removed. I mean, the big thing you have to know from the prior 25 Marvel movies is the Gamora backstory.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, you can definitely just watch the, I guess, 5 Guardians movies that the Guardians appear in.
There's 6 because Love and Thunder, but that one you can definitely skip.
Yeah, you don't need that.
Yeah. Not
to understand what's going on here.
No.
I would say, like, I like the Guardians. I'll take all of them I can get. That's probably one of my gripes about Love and Thunder is that it didn't do enough with that setup. But unfortunately, it was a setup that nobody else was as excited about as I was, apparently. Because
I don't know. I kind of assumed they'd be in and out. I mean, that was my assumption going in.
I don't know. They could. I was like, the way they incorporated the Hulk into Ragnarok made me feel like, okay, you can do these sort of things where you know which one's the star, but there's the supporting player. I don't know. Even going back to like the way Black Widow was in Winter Soldier, like she's a major part throughout that movie, but it's a Captain America movie,
right?
And like that's a model that I think would work for these. Unfortunately, Ragnarok is really the only time I can think of where that's been pulled off. I mean, I guess you get like Iron Man and the first Spider-Man movie, sort of, or Doctor Strange and No Way Home. Yeah. Even then, they're sort of in and out in the first act. Well,
I mean, I think it's good in general, and because it does connect these, but it also gives you more of these characters. You can learn more about them and spend more time with them if they are consistent, as they mostly are. I don't know if you're gonna like Doctor Strange more because of the events in No Way Home, but
no.
Like that seems like a benefit that is added value from making movies this way, and sort of what they're all about, so they should lean into it when they can. So yeah, I at the time I kind of didn't care, but I've come around to thinking, the Guardians should have been a lot more in Love and Thunder. You're right on that. Would have been a different film, but most people probably wish it was a different film, so that's okay.
Yeah. Or Thor should have been more in Guardians 3, but they would have to be very different movies in that case, and there's no saying that they would have worked, And right. I mean, as things lie now, there is too much in Guardians 3 already, as it does feel overstuffed. Like I said, Adam Warlock feels very tacked on to this whole
He's
scenario.
The thing I'm just like, well, that's the one you can take out, I like the actor, I like the look, but there kind of wasn't room for him in this story. I don't think anyone would have cared too much if he didn't show up again. I do like I don't know if this is comic lore or if it's just a complete what's the word, retro move to make the gold people, what are they called, the sovereign, to make them products of the High Evolutionaries' work. I think that was a decent idea. I
think it fits them
works
very well in
exactly.
that they were supposedly like this idealized society that think of themselves as perfect, but clearly they were not perfect. That's what you get from their appearance in Guardians 2, and so that fits with the High Evolutionaries' MO pretty well.
Yeah,
I feel like
fits with. This is my kind of take on it now, having watched 3 Guardians movies recently. I actually revisited 1 and 2 last month. These are slobs versus snobs comedies, all 3 of them. Overall, this is superhero movies doing slobs versus snobs. in every case, that's kind of what it's about. The antagonists in every film are just sort of big pompous assholes who think they're better or more important than everyone, and need to be taken down a peg by the slobs. And yeah, these all three are kind of just versions of Caddyshack in space when you get right down to it.
Kind of, but they're so focused on family stuff that like the villains are all bad dads.
They are, yes.
As you go through these, between the High Evolutionary and Thanos and Ego. And that obviously plays into the whole found family aspect that is the whole reason for all of this to be. And it's, like I said, I mean, if anything, like it's almost progressed too far in this movie, where we have to now find ways to complicate how functional and supportive and loving the Guardians are with each other.
Yeah, I mean, considering they just bitch at each other a lot throughout the whole movie, I don't think that, I don't know, it comes across fairly well despite that. I would say I think they achieve that without getting too directly maudlin about any of it. You know,
no, and the family sitcom stuff works really well. Just because having them banter, you know, and Drax is talking about, all right, so we're back to sexually touching him. Maybe we should draw straws.
I do think this has a cumulative effect that, you know, I don't know how much you can credit the film itself or just the fact that it's part of a long-running franchise. We've seen these characters appear in 5, 6, 7 things prior. Moments that wouldn't matter if you were just watching this alone, but really do if you have the whole context. Nebula breaking down when she hears rockets alive. Stuff like that really plays if you've been there the whole way. Probably doesn't matter if you're new to it. And I think this becomes more emotional because depending on how much you put into it, how much you've invested in these characters directly affects how much it works. I mean, you know, no shit. I guess that's true of any late sequel, but you know.
Yeah, and I think that's to be embraced at this point. I don't think the target Gunn should be aiming for is, I want this to be a good jumping on point. I think it's okay to build your emotional resonance around the idea that people have seen Volume 1 and 2 at least, and probably even Infinity War at this juncture.
I would imagine, yes. They're some of the most successful films ever made. So yeah, it's probably a safe assumption that people have context for the emotional arcs they're on here.
Yeah. But that's not that there's not a balance to strike there, because the bad parts of Phase 5 get too lost in the weeds of also assuming that you've seen season 1 of Loki and just the Disney Plus of it all really, I think, has been a bane to both Marvel and Star Wars. But
yeah, it's true. I would have to say, I think we've talked about this before. If you took out the Disney Plus shows, which individually, you know, ups and downs, you can make an argument for liking WandaVision or Loki, that's fine, but cumulatively, they have largely decreased the stock of the MCU as a whole, more than the middling films have, I would say. Yeah.
Yes, there are things to like in every one of those Disney Plus shows, and I haven't hated watching them, but yes, as you say, they're cumulatively they cost more than they have added value.
I mean, I'm not entirely sure why. I guess it's because it's not great. It's because none of it's great. I think if it was all great, that'd be one thing, but you just can't do that when you're producing that much content.
It's hyper concentrated too. Like COVID did no favors in that they stockpiled some, and there's just, you know, I broke it down that there is, through Phase 1 through 3, through Endgame, there's 2.5 to 3 movies per year. You know, what is it? And that's maybe 8 hours of content. Yeah. And then from 2020 to 2023, there was, I think, 8 movies, 9 movies, and 7 or 8 series, and it's like 20 hours of content per year, as opposed
more
to 7 or 6.
Yeah,
yeah, it's 20 something. It's more than tripled the sheer tonnage that we are supposed to ingest to follow all this, and it is nice that Guardians 3 doesn't require any of that.
I think 2021 was 4 series came out, and because they were backlogged, so. Yeah, that was not a best foot forward situation, you know. I can see why they did it that way, but still, geez.
Maybe it would be different if one of them was top to bottom great.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
none of them really stuck at the landing, you know.
Oh, no. I mean, there's ones that people like. I get that, but no one likes all of them. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and maybe I'll speak for myself only. Like, I say I like pieces of all of them, but I don't think I like any of them as a whole. All of them had something that just soured the batch somewhere in there. All of them are like, but there's a good 2-hour movie in there somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Like if they'd put out a Hawkeye movie that was basically that, but 2 hours, I think everyone would have loved it.
Yeah, and maybe I don't know. They handled the Kingpin a little better, I think, was my gripe there.
Bumbled Kingpin,
that was probably it. I mean, WandaVision is the only one that maybe wouldn't work as a movie because the structure is tied so much to TV.
Yeah, and when it was doing that, it was really good, but then it kind of drops that at some point and becomes very, very generic and not great.
The bad parts of WandaVision are some of the worst stuff in the MCU, as we and others have rehashed plenty. But this is so far removed from that. Guardians, I mean.
Yeah, well, that's what's fun about Guardians is it's kind of sits on its own here. At least this film does. Yeah.
But that's also what makes it like not really that helpful. It being good to the rest of the whole Marvel project.
Oh well, it's fair enough.
I mean, Marvel as a whole, I think, is in this really weird situation with this movie where, especially like Quantumania getting so savaged, that they need it to be really good because they need a hit. But also, if it's a giant hit, it kind of makes them look bad because then the story becomes, well, see what you let the competition steal away your one, reliable hitter here. Like what, you idiots. So they're kind of damned either way.
I mean, I'm sure they'd prefer it was a hit. It seems like it's going to
they definitely prefer the checks to cash.
Sure, it seems like here at the end of this opening weekend that it opened a little softer than people expected, and that is a thing that is interesting because if you asked me going in, I would say, well, this is the one that people are still going to show up for, and they may still. I mean, it seems like a film that I believe that this will have a very large contingent that loves it. It feels kind of personal and emotional in a way that I think a number of people will respond to. So it'll be interesting to see how it does long term, but I don't know. Is it superhero ennui? Is it finally arrived after years of threaten? Or have we just realized these things are going to be on streaming in 2 months? So, there's less incentive to go out and see it right away, or certainly a second time, as you might have done
back
in the day.
I think you're right that this will have some legs to it, and there will be people who will champion this.
Yeah.
If only because it is the one you can get behind as like a snob. You can get behind this one and still maintain your anti-Marvel stance, your anti-Disney stance, and say that you can like this. And if you're a Marvel fan, and say, "Oh, this is one of the good ones. I like this." Or if you're a Marvel hater, you can say, "See, this proves why Marvel's so stupid. That they didn't know what they had and they let it go. Blah blah blah."
I don't know. But, it is an anti-snob movie, though, as I was saying. Yeah. So. I don't know.
No, but that's an old country club snob. I'm talking about a film Twitter snob. Different breed. But whether the soft opening, I think, is probably just reflective less of the. I mean, it's of the 3-year delay. Like, this probably would have had a huge opening in 2020, but
maybe not
they
2020.
allowed the Guardians brand to be diluted, and it would have to be very early 2020. You're right. And then the other thing is just not just the Guardian specific brand, but the Marvel brand as diluted. So it's
superheroes in general.
Right.
I mean, DC just put out Black Adam and Shazam, which are disastrous.
Right.
It's. I mean, I'm curious how the Flash will do. I kind of think not great. I think the we may have found a lower ceiling for all these films right now.
Yeah, there was a Flash trailer before this, and it was playing real heavily into Michael Keaton's Batman being a co-lead of that movie.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, he looks good, and the stuff of that Tim Burton Batman in action actually looks kind of good in the trailers, but it feels like, I don't know, such an admission of defeat to be playing up that guy who should clearly be, I don't know, fifth lead of that movie, maybe. As as big of a thing as your Flash and bigger than your Ben Affleck's Batman.
Come on, I mean, you're marketing that film. What are you going to put in it? I mean, what do people want to see? I mean, it's got to be him. That's what they're selling, not the weird cult leader who is, I don't know, is he in jail right now or not? I have no idea, or just on the lam. Yeah, who cares? Yeah, they don't want to make.
No, I think they're free now, but what really that brought to the fore here is how much multiverse fatigue I'm getting.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just the novelty of, we've got 2 Flashes, and we're bringing back Zod, and we got this other Batman, and we're having a Supergirl, and so it's just like, I feel like I've done all this a million times already.
There's rumors about some other appearances in that movie, and I'm just like, they're leaning hard into it. But we're not done, though.
We've done all this, though.
We're not done. No Way Home making $1.5 billion or whatever it made. That was like, okay, strap in. You're going to see everyone who played a superhero for the last 30 years is coming back. When we get to Kang Dynasty and all the big Avengers movies coming out in 2 or 3 years, you're going to see Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen and Wesley Snipes. Anyone who ever did it will come and get a paycheck to show up and be like, whoa, well, I'm Blade and I'm here, whatever, and have a fight scene, and that'll be it. It's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, but also I think No Way Home, it succeeded doing that multiverse thing, but also kind of killed my enthusiasm. Like, that was the last version of it where I was like shocked that they could pull it off.
Uh-huh.
And now it's like, okay, the contractual hills have been conquered. So there's no like just surprise from a meta aspect of, I can't believe that they got Michael Keaton cleared to be in this. Much interested, because now, yes, I will believe that they got him.
Yeah, everyone loves money. I don't know why they would say no. Like, would you like to come and make a lot of money? Would you like to do nothing? Sign a thing, and we'll send you a lot of money for the use of Michael Keaton era Batman. I mean, everyone's going to be in on that, and it's the sort of thing where like, a thing was a hit. Well, let's just get 5 more of those out. That it's just that with this specific thing of bringing back old superhero actors. And legacy sequels. It's a new version of legacy sequel.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how I am on that.
Yeah.
I'm not trying not to jump on that hobby horse right now. But that's pretty. I mean, that trailer was right in front of the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny one, and like, God, man, John Williams is still bringing it. But
I'm excited for the Dial of Destiny. I hope it works out for him. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be great if that ended up being good?
No. I don't think I'm so against it. I'm not even like not even energetically against it. I'm just kind of like, because I know it's a losing battle. They're going to keep doing it for quite a while longer until these things start losing serious money. And
that's probably not going to be the one to do it, though, man.
No, it's not.
We're going to have to be like, it's Gremlins. We're doing Gremlins again. And look, Zach Galligan back. He's back as Billy Peltzer. Oh, don't you want to see Zach Galligan return to the role that made him famous?
We'll all be amazed. Like, Phoebe Cates looks great for being 60.
Yeah. Is that Judge Reinhold? Like, somehow they remembered Judge Reinhold was in Gremlins. Oh my God!
Oh, you know what? I said that the multiverse stuff couldn't excite me anymore. But if they get Judge Reinhold back and Joe Morton both on screen together,
well, no, there's a way around that. Yeah.
yeah. There's ways. And it might even get fast tracked if the Actors Guild is on strike.
Oh well, yeah.
You might get only necromance dead stars.
Oh well,
they can cross the picket line.
That's
digitally.
The thing. Yeah, like, they can bring back digital Dick Miller. Just the writer's strike. Is that going to ruin all these forever or for the next 5 years or whatever? I mean, none of these movies going to be good because of that. What do you think?
Well, I think it's possible the writer's strike might wind up being a boon to Marvel specifically.
Really?
Well, if it forces somebody to pump the brakes for them, which is the thing that they've needed to do for a while here, and particularly since as they've been barreling forward, they put so many chips onto the Kang square and Jonathan Majors, and then
you get to rethink
be
that
his girlfriend or whatever, and is out of everything at this point. I mean, I don't know if they've officially fired him, but
no, they haven't.
When your manager and publicist leave you, it feels like the studio's probably not going to be the one to stick by you.
I mean, they got a problem there because he's in Loki season 2, which is done. So maybe I wouldn't surprise me if they're what they're wondering is like, are we gonna fix that now and reshoot part of Loki, or are we gonna
release it and recast for the Kang Dynasty?
There's shit to figure out there. I mean, I'm sure he'll be in other things too before then. Well, the Fantastic Four might show. I don't know. I have no idea. But now they probably all that's a bit up in the air, I suspect.
But I do think that it's possible, maybe not likely, but possible, that the writer's strike gives Marvel sort of at a studio level an excuse to slow down and recalibrate. And, they've been kind of fainting in that direction lately with some of their streaming series that when they announced 15 of them at once, they then have quietly backpedaled on a half dozen of them. And I think that's probably to the better, although, it sucks for everybody who signed up to work on those shows, but for the audience perspective and for protecting the brand more generally, that might be to the better. I mean, the writer's strike, I think, we're both generally on the side of the writers, so we want them to have their demands met.
From what I've read about it, it seems like a real no-brainer, as a matter of fact.
Where's the percentage in siding with the studio?
Yeah.
I mean, not vocally, it would be a thing. Like, I don't if supporting the writers meant that I had to actually stop watching movies and TV somehow, actually abstain, that would be one thing. But how is it going to affect you and I personally? It's I can subsist on the streaming libraries that already exist that I have access to.
I'll never get through everything I'd like to watch. Yeah, that will not happen in my lifetime. So of course.
So it'd be one thing if I felt like my continuing subscription or watching old stuff was sustaining the studios through this strike and making it so they don't have to go back to the table or whatever. But I think the whole reason, as I understand it, a big part of the reason why all this is happening is because the studios cannot subsist on just sustained meager profitability. The markets behind everything demand constant, ridiculous, outlandish growth, and you're not going to see growth without new content.
The growth model that America seems to run on is it's a real problem. We can just look at within the world of films. I think it is a major issue. I think it leads to a lot of short-term gains being prioritized over long-term success. Certainly, artistic takes a second, back seat to. This is why you see so many, the Little Mermaid, remakes of Disney cartoons. Things that are guaranteed to make money become a lot easier to greenlight than something original, something that does not have a track record to draw off of. It's why Star Wars and Marvel were so appealing, I'm sure, to Disney in the first place. And why everyone tried to have shared universes in the wake of the original vendors, like the Dark Universe or what have you. As a result of that, I kind of just have to be cynical about the effects that the writer's strike is going to have. I don't think content's going to stop, I think they're just going to make bad shit. They're going to make movies that have imperfect scripts. I remember the last time this happened, the 2007 writer's strike, I believe. That was when we got movies like X-Men Origins Wolverine, or Terminator Salvation, or Men in Black 2, I think it was at the time. Movies that are fundamentally just broken pieces of shit. There were more. Quantum of Solace.
Yeah, I don't remember the effects of that on movies so much. This is, when I think of 2007, I think of this prestige stuff that sort of preceded all that in its production. You're right. Versus the stuff that came out in 2008 or 9, I suppose, which is what was actually affected by it. I think of some really great shows having suddenly abbreviated seasons from that. That Breaking Bad season 1, ending halfway through basically, and The Shield season 6 being kind of crappy compared to the seasons on either end of it, and The Office sort of going away and being retooled, ultimately to its benefit, I think. But
it's. I guess there's no reason it has to follow the same pattern. Maybe they learned lessons from that, but I doubt that. I don't think that.
You presume they learned the wrong ones.
I don't think any board of directors sitting on at a studio is going to be like, okay, well we'll take the hit for the next few years, so we can come back stronger with a better structure in place for everybody. There's no financial incentive for them to live that way or do that, so they're not going to. That's it's the story of rich people in America. They're not incentivized to do something that will benefit everything. Why would it happen? And so I don't know. I think more likely, we're going to go into this writer's strike, and they're going to release all those Disney Plus shows that they put on hold. So we're going to get Echo and Agatha, Coven of Chaos, or whatever, and all these things are going to eventually just get churned out, and with the hope that the writer's strike is done so they can continue to do content after the fact, and maybe they will even start shooting their bad Blade movie. Maybe I'm not hopeful for what this allows. I mean, I'd love to be wrong. That'd be incredible if this allowed them to right the ship. But I think it probably means that Phase 5 and Phase 6 will kind of suck a little, kind of be rough, as will other movies from other studios.
Kind of already on that path before the strike.
Yeah, I think that COVID had a hand in that, and I think this will just keep them rolling in that direction. Or maybe not. I don't know. I'm hopeful that it wouldn't. That'd be great if this one went differently. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure great movies will be released in the next 2 years, but I suspect more bad ones than usual would be as well.
Yeah, for sure. I guess, I'm thinking about more on the TV side for whatever reason. I guess because TV
Ironheart series coming out, shit like that.
Yeah. Well, a TV production is like so much more steady. I suppose the Marvel would be the counterpoint to that. It's on a steady season schedule. The Marvel releases are on a steadier schedule than the Better Call Saul seasons were. But
that's been a liability though, with all the shit going on in the world and people's varying reactions to this stuff. It's a little too late to alter course if they hate something because you've done 3 shows after it that are yet to come out. It's tough. It's like it's like if you're on a cruise ship that's out of control and is moving too fast. A real Speed 2 situation. Yeah.
Yes.
How long does it take this turn? Yeah.
Right. All right. The other thing you hear sort of bandied about from time to time is, and I guess it is a point of negotiations from what I've read, is the role of AI in
right.
Scabbing, I guess, can they just turn over Echo production scripts to a chat bot and have them churn them out? And I don't know how you and I haven't talked about AI in a while. We didn't early on in our run. We did a whole episode about how fiction treats artificial intelligence as a concept. It seems wildly outdated now because this is before ChatGPT or anything.
Yeah, now it's about how AI treats fiction.
Right. We're coming out from a different angle. That's actually that's one of our episodes that I like the best. That was a really good time.
It might be time to revisit that at some point. Actually, talk about.
I think actually, as we get into the Mass Effect series in our BioWare series, I think there's a lot of AI material in there that might bring up some of this. It came to my mind a little bit in the Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Watching that movie.
We're talking about that. Yes.
Yeah, that the High Evolutionary, is his problem is that he's turned all of his societies into large language models. And the reason why he's so obsessed with Rocket Raccoon is it's the one piece of artificial intelligence he created that is capable of actual innovation.
Yeah.
And everybody else just, I don't know, I guess, the Counter-Earth thing was a weird conceit. But taking it to AI, that I don't know if you've played around with any of the chatbots or whatever and how you can tell it to write things in the style of somebody or something, and they will spit out something that is an almost passable imitation of it.
Yeah, it's a little alarming, honestly, has been my reaction to it. Makes me a little uncomfortable. The fact that you can tell right now that it's fake, that it's AI. You watch AI generated beer commercial on YouTube, and it's kind of hilarious and creepy. And just that, it's just people smiling a little too large and drinking a little too much beer. But it seems obvious to me that they're going to fix that. Like, if they can get this far, like, I think they'll be. I feel like a big part of the conversation on AI has been like, you can do everything technically right, but where's the soul? And I'm just like, I think they're going to get the soul figured out at some point if they've gotten this far. Eventually AI will write good scripts.
Well, one of the things
it seems to me,
maybe I think part of it is that it turns out like people don't have as much soul as we like to think.
Kind of, yeah.
A lot of the crap we push out ourselves, is not that great. But honestly, okay, as this relates to the writers' strike specifically, that's one area where I don't worry about it. I do
not yet.
Anxieties about AI or whatever. No. But I think one of the last things it will be able to do is write a good script, if it ever gets there. And if it ever gets to the point of being able to write a genuinely good script, then it will have ended society in 5 other ways first.
I don't know, man. Like a good script, like a producible script, I think. I don't know. Like, how far off is something like Renfield from a computer-generated script, I wonder? I haven't seen Renfield. I assume it's poorly written.
Well, I'm on record that I think ChatGPT has written the last 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. But
right.
That's what I'm saying. There's a ceiling on that, and that show is coasting on goodwill that people accumulated like instantly in the first season when an actual person created the concept for it. And since then, it's just mix and matching tile pieces from previously produced Star Wars stuff, and it all kind of looks like a Star Wars and kind of sounds like one, but there's just no spark to it. There's no memorable dialogue or characters. And I think that's what it can do. It can produce something that doesn't come off as exactly robotic, but and it might pass muster for a little bit if they start doing AI scripts. We won't notice, like the Disney Plus Marvel shows are bad and existed enough to begin with that we won't notice immediately the huge difference in quality. But they will be, if they're in competition with actual human-generated content, they'll get quickly outshone. I think John Henry will continue to beat the locomotive in terms of creative writing and possibly music production. Much longer than in other areas. I worry much like AI will hollow out my profession as a lawyer by trade much faster than it will Hollywood screenwriting, is my current assessment, and medicine and a bunch of other things, and completely upend society before I think it gets to the point of it can actually write a Blue Beetle script that is better than what the median Hollywood hack can put out.
I don't know, man. I'm not sure. I mean, it feels like it would be the funniest cosmic joke if what AI got best at first was art. Like if it managed to put all the artists out of work first, that would almost be like sort of like fitting in a cruel Twilight Zone kind of way. we figured it would handle all the manual labor kind of stuff first, and I was like, no. all the creative arts are going to be taken over first. all the stuff that does require what we assumed was our human innovation and our souls. No, we figured a way to do that better. I mean, that's the Twilight Zone ending, I feel like, to all this, if it comes to it. And I don't know. I feel like you see those pictures, you see an AI generated version of Chris Farley as the Joker in The Dark Knight that looks spot on, and you're just like, well, yeah, shit. I mean, obviously this is just sort of generating stuff that has already been seen, but if you feed enough into that, I mean, I don't know how that differs from a human mind ultimately.
Well, I don't know precisely how it does, but I do think you need to be constantly feeding it new grist, or else it's going to stagnate very quickly. Although, it's not that human minds are immune to this same processes, because we made Indiana Jones 4 and Rocky 7 on our own, without the help of AI, by just endlessly reshuffling pieces of old stuff that we were familiar with. But I don't know. When you look at those things that an AI bot actually shoves out, it follows the assignment, but it brings to mind the robot devil on Futurama screaming about how you can't just have characters announce how they're feeling. That makes me feel angry. Because I've seen those things, they can sort of almost imitate a style, but one thing they can't do is any sort of subtext. So that's just the character says, this makes me feel this way. And it's whatever the prompt you fed it was.
I can tie this back around to Guardians then. That's the sort of movie that you really feel the creator's hand in. That's the sort of movie that really diverges from, the sort of standard studio movies that come out. Your Quantum Manias and Black Adams, that feel like they could have been ChatGPT easily, like Black Adam. God, I saw that recently. That film is, that film feels like a spreadsheet brought to life. It's, completely absent the human touch in any way. Guardians, on the other hand, really does feel like a labor of love, like somebody had, James Gunn, the movie he wanted to make. I'm sure no one was like, this has to be about animal cruelty, except James Gunn,
right.
And I'm honestly shocked they let him make this film. This feels like one that got snuck by as a result of all this incredible, weird, secret of NIM shit that is going on in it.
Yeah, and no one ever told him he had to put this much Kraglin in these movies. But I love that guy. And his runner with calling Cosmo a bad dog was wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, he hits the moments he's supposed to, which is always a surprise, knowing he's James Gunn's brother. That guy's like, I don't know, he feels like he's an on-set, he's part of the team. He's the guy who does Rocket mocap, he's on set all the time anyway. You figure he's just like Bruce Campbell, on a Raimi film. He's just an essential part of the cocktail in some way or another.
Yeah.
Like Rooker. They found room for Rooker in this. I was thinking he's in every James Gunn movie. How can you put him in this? Oh, he's a flashback, of course. But he's a flashback to Kraglin. Which
for Kraglin. Yeah. And nice Nathan Fillion appearance as well.
A real honest-to-goodness Nathan Fillion role, in fact. Not just an odd covered-in-makeup cameo. Yeah, exactly.
I thought he was just going to be a Ravager, playing the Snake Man or something. But no, he is Nathan Fillion playing a Nathan Fillion type.
All the innovation in this, all the neat ideas. This is the stuff that I'm going to miss. The things that don't feel like they were designed by an AI program. No way an AI program comes up with something like the Orgoscope, the completely organic space station made up of all organic materials. That's a great gross idea.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful to look at. It's supposed to be, but
fantastic. Looking at these trailers for this, I was kind of like, I wonder what this movie's about. They're not showing everything. I guess the reason for that is all of its imagery is grotesque. Everything in this is rough to look at. And, I'm sure they didn't want that. Like Guardians 2 is, ostensibly, it's kind of picturesque. It's a lot of appealing vistas, a lot of things that are nice to look at or composed artfully, with aesthetics in mind. This is all just like a lot of like techno-biological mashups, a lot of red light and grotesquerie. And looking at the wheels on that walrus and, looking at where the machinery is joined into his lower torso and shit. It's just like, why did you make this movie? I love you guys. This is great.
Yeah, from the trailers, I thought this was going to take, the whole second act was going to be the Guardians going back to Earth, possibly back in time. I didn't know, like the counter stuff, it looks like it was from the 80s. And so I thought there was going to be kind of a Star Trek 4 type of scenario.
Right.
Nope. I was very wrong about that.
Just weird land of the rabbit people or snake people or bat people or and they all get killed. This is a wild movie, man. This is probably the darkest, grossest, most R-rated MCU film, right? It's got to be.
I mean, it's
without much contest, I think. Yeah.
Right. It's got to be the darkest, I suppose. I mean, I don't know. It's also the grotesquerie again is also CG'd that it doesn't really land with me much, but
well, fair enough. I mean, these films are all very CG. All the Guardians movies are just a wash in green screen.
Yeah, for sure. That wasn't, but I say for some reason, like that plays okay with me when it's lovable creatures, but when it's supposed to be eliciting disgust and doing Cronenberg stuff, it just doesn't. You need the tactile sense for the Cronenberg body horror.
I would say that this is some of the best effects work that one of these films has had in a while. I have spoken positively about Quantum Mania, Love and Thunder, Wakanda Forever falls into this category. None of those films look like they had really strong effects work behind the scenes. They all feel very rushed, especially Quantum Mania. They're just like get it out, kind of is the vibe. This one looks like they took their time on. I have no idea how true that is, but this one felt like the behind the scenes artists were achieving what they wanted to. More so.
I don't know. Like I said, the creature stuff doesn't work. Well, I will say Rocket is the best effect in the whole MCU.
Yeah.
You I forget from time to time that is a purely CGI thing. And I really like actually how, for as CG heavy as all this stuff is, they're also really heavy on when Gunn chooses to just go makeup.
Yeah.
And how like that works for Drax and Gamora and Nebula really well. And then also like the Sovereign, it's not trying to make them look natural or cool or anything. And the goofiness and chintziness of their just being slathered in gold paint really works for the vibes they're going for there.
Yeah. and again, another thing that is aided by recontextualizing them as products of the High Evolutionary. What do you think of him? What do you think of this guy?
I was going to say he's the least of the Guardians villains for me, but that's not really true, I guess, since Ronan the Accuser doesn't do much of anything. But Thanos...
Ronan's good, but yeah.
Thanos kind of wins not because of his appearance in Guardians.
He's... Of course not.
I mean, he's a nasty piece of work, the High Evolutionary. You want him when he gets his torn up and just... the group pummeling, when he gets the death proof ending. It is pretty satisfying.
Yeah, it's a really good like pure villain. We were talking about Moff Gideon recently, and that's sort of a shittier version of this. It's this one is written that way, devised that way, performed that way. A lot of performance in this performance, but he looks like a He-Man villain, so I guess it makes sense to do that. And yeah, you really hate this guy. You really do enjoy wanting see him die at the end of this. And
there's none of that Killmonger. Oh, but he's kind of got a point type of thing.
No, this is pure comic book bad guy shit. And I don't know. I feel like this guy is doing as good a job with it as anyone has in a little while. This sort of over the top villainy.
Yeah, and just abusing his own underlings. Just being a real jerk to them on top of everything else, as if torturing the bunny rabbits wasn't mean enough.
Like he seems to enjoy physically torturing the subjects, but he gets more enjoyment out of mentally torturing.
Yeah, it brings to mind that the great sketch from The State back in the day on MTV. The doctor whose field is monkey torture.
I have not seen this.
And you have not seen the monkey torture sketch?
No.
Okay. The guy I'm blanking on Thomas Lennon, the guy who does Dangle from Reno 911. He's being interviewed by Michael Ian Black on a talk show about he's a scientist. He's like, you're into primate research, and he's like, primate research is very limiting. I'm in a more specific field that I prefer to call monkey torture. And then I was like, monkey torture, and he starts by, oh no, not physically, it's psychological torture. I like to play games with them. Like one of them, I'll pretend Bobo's dead. I'll just bring him on, like, oh, I sure miss Bobo since he died, and he's right there, but it drives him crazy. And the High Evolutionary was sort of giving those vibes.
Yeah, he was. That definitely seems like him. That's fun. I'm going to go watch that right away.
You got to.
I don't know. Let's see. Quick round the horn here. How'd everyone do? What do you think of Chris Pratt? I think this is somehow, like, ever since the first Guardians movie, which he's excellent in, he's been terrible in everything except when he plays Peter Quill, which he's still great at.
Yep.
I don't know how that works, but it does, and he's still great in this movie.
Yeah, he's quite good. This is a thing that I will throw out that as not liking about this movie. I think the Guardians uniforms that they have adopted are terrible.
They're not the best.
They make everybody look chunky and the same. I mean, for one thing, like you make Dave Bautista look doughy in these things, and there's scenes of this where you can see that Pratt is absolutely ripped in his t-shirt on the ship, and then you put him in this thing and it looks like he's Fat Star-Lord from in part 2 again or whatever. But beyond that, it's just also a huge part of the appeal of Guardians of the Galaxy is the misfits element to it, and that there are these weird amalgamation of people.
They don't have costumes,
Yeah, exactly. Or they have unique, bespoke costumes. They're all their own character. And putting them all in a uniform, like, destroys. I mean, maybe there's an idea to visually motifize the idea that they're cohering into one family unit or whatever, but no, just let them be their weird, colorful selves.
I mean, I understand Bautista's in his 50s and doesn't really want to do a whole movie shirtless again for a variety of reasons. Makeup, upkeep, all of that. So you can give him the dumb suit and have him look chunky. That's fine, I think.
He did have his role in Glass Onion in a Speedo. Like,
but he's not wearing, full body makeup in Glass Onion. I mean,
Okay,
it's
fine.
one
Give
scene.
Give Drax a vest then, but Nebula and Rocket don't need to wear the jumpsuits. Is my point.
No, they don't. Yeah.
Anyway, that's but we're going around. We kind of talked about this. I think Bautista and Palm Clementieff are sort of the VI MVPs.
Oh, okay.
VIPs.
Interesting.
Kind of this whole franchise, as it turns out.
I agree with that. I do think this is maybe my least favorite Drax outing. This film, I think he's so fucking good in the first and second films that, this one is, I don't know, they give him a little bit more obvious material, I would say, in this.
Oh, yeah, sure. We're more familiar with his shtick now.
Yeah, sure.
But I laughed at him sort of slowly drifting back down to lay down on the couch again after being scolded.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, I'm really happy that we got Dave Bautista out of these. Like, what a terrific movie star. He's fun in almost anything he appears in. I mean, I haven't seen the ones that looked obviously bad. Your Stupers, I don't know, that kindergarten
My
cop
Spy.
thing you did. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, but every muscle man has to do
up.
one of those.
Yeah, they do. But I love him in like stuff like Dune and Blade Runner. He's fantastic. And yeah, a great signature role here in Drax.
Indeed.
Yeah. Gamora, we talked about her. Cool. Like the way they did it. Like the way they wrote it. Groot, kind of the odd man out here.
It kind of feels like Saldana's the most checked out of anybody, though. I mean, it kind of plays into the characterization as the script would structure it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe she did too good of a job. It felt like she actually resented being in some of these scenes sometimes.
Well, I mean, she's probably like knee deep in just Avatar world while making this one. So I
always want to be like, but this is the better role than the Avatar role.
I would think, right? You can appear as yourself for one thing.
Yeah, I mean, you're still covered in shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's makeup, but it's not digitally replacing your face. You don't have to have a weird mantis body.
Right. Let's see. Rocket. Okay, Rocket's half the film. What do you think? He's oddly like the main character and like out of play for the first 2 hours of the movie.
Right.
I guess it all comes down to whether you like the flashback scenes or not. I love them. I think they're the best stuff in the film. You were a little cooler on them because
this is the reason why I was giving Volume 2 the edge over this immediately is because I feel like this is the one I will be last to revisit because I think that the flashback scenes I will be skipping over.
Really? Okay. I would almost be more inclined to skip over the rest of it.
Oh no, it's when the Guardians are together that's when I like all engaged.
That, but man, the flashback stuff is potent. I like seeing these little beasts dream of a better life, and and believe their lies and do this weird little version of "Never Let Me Go." Like,
"Never Let Me Go." That's a pull. I didn't think that would be the touchstone you would use, but it's absolutely apropos.
Yeah, and then he shows him get shot. I'm just like, God damn, Gunn.
I do kind of love the like villain reveal of showing the High Evolutionary standing there like this, celestial god. Yeah, so the smoking gun that he's pointing at an animatronic otter.
Yeah,
is he dastardly reveal?
That's the great shit, though. The stuff that is sort of absurd and still works. I love him for that. That's a a taste that is not in most movies of this type, and that's why I like the incredibly weird flashback stuff. All the animal bombs that super speed evolve them in their little tubes. All that shit was great, and violent and gross, and I don't know. I guess the CGI would be a barrier, but it's also probably the only reason that this exists at all. Like the Cronenberg R-rated version of this does not get made. This maybe is a compromise. Of course. Yeah. Uh-huh.
No, nor should it. This would be bad as an R-rated Cronenberg thing. I don't think you should push it any farther than that. Yeah, I mean, Rocket is weirdly the heart of this movie, but isn't in it much, it feels like. I mean, the baby version
not
is,
our Rocket. Yeah.
Yeah. And when he's back in action, he's still like, he only has a half dozen lines.
Yeah, he's sort of...
he does some shooting, but...
He's got catharsis to deal with. Yeah, he can't just be our Rocket. That's true.
And
we haven't had a lot of our Rocket up to this point, though. He is, probably gets the most play in the Endgame movies. Well, him and Nebula.
Yeah, shockingly.
Yeah,
He gets like the big emotional stuff with Thor.
I love all that. Yeah.
Yeah, some of the best stuff in Infinity War. And then, but it feels like Groot doesn't get a ton to do, but also I'm like, I don't need a whole lot of Groot in these movies. I think he's fine.
That's true.
As a flavoring that gets mattered on there. And I did weird The Thing reference with his head sprouting.
Oh yeah,
root legs.
I initially thought you were talking about Ben Grimm's thing, and then I was like, oh no, there was a Carpenter thing in this too. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That was odd, but I mean, I'm never going to object to a spider leg head reference.
Yeah, of course.
Who else we got? Anybody? We got. I mean, I like Cosmo and Kraglin.
Yeah, they're fun. Oddly, they're on the poster. Yeah, so I guess they count.
Well, they're certainly part of the team. I think they're wearing the freaking vests, I'm sure.
They're NPC members of the team, though. These are sidebar characters. You don't actually get to take them out. They offer support. They give you buffs.
Yeah, and they do that. They bring in the Thing at the end for the third act. They're in it enough that doesn't feel like too much of a contrivance. And like I said, that just the bad dog runner amused me. So I will take that. Adam Warlock, you could lift right out of this movie. Like we said, I don't mind it because it's a fun conceit for that character, and that kind of fits well with the Guardians vibes. It just doesn't. It's really superfluous to this movie's plot.
It's superfluous. I don't mind any of it. I think the scenes are fine. You could probably lift it out simply to tighten the thing up, but I don't mind him being there as such. This didn't feel long to me. It's 2.5. It's the longest Guardians film. I didn't feel like this was a long sit, though. Yeah.
I would say where this movie came closest to losing me, as I felt this just the pit of my stomach drop when they uncovered the cages full of kids. Because I was flashing back to the Thor Love and Thunder's Child Army and going, oh no, we're doing this again. But no, they don't really do anything. They're just there to be ushered around and saved. So
yeah, I mean, it's nice to see these movies remember to save people sometimes. Like that's a thing that sometimes you have to remind superhero movies to do. It'd be good if they saved somebody, maybe. This one does.
It is. It feels like that clashes sometimes with the idea that sort of taken hold that saving people is a patriarchal, oppressive act ultimately, and that we have to empower all of everybody. And like when that trickles down to 8-year-olds, I'm like, no, just the 8-year-olds need to be told to eat their peanut butter sandwiches and when to go to the potty, and you don't need to arm them and send them into battle against an evil god.
A god killer, to be fair, but
right.
Okay. All right,
but they're children. Children don't need to be action heroes. We tried. We had the Three Ninjas extended universe in the 90s, and we'll get the Three Ninjas legacy sequel soon enough, I'm sure.
I would hope. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. We covered it, right? That's plenty on Guardians, and also quite a bit on the writer's strike and AI. I don't know. I guess final thoughts on this. Probably the last Guardians film. Hopefully the last. Star-Lord may return, whatever. But we're not going to see another James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy movie. So
Right. And what is Guardians of the Galaxy without him?
indeed,
Hard to say.
Yeah, are we? I'm sure that we'll see characters again popping up in the Kang Dynasty or what have you. But this is it, and at a very solid landing. It is, I think, the most consistent MCU franchise or sub-franchise, however you want to define those. These characters have worked in every appearance they've made. Give or take, Love and Thunder, and
this and Captain America are the successful ones. The ones that are, there's not a miss among them.
Right.
All their appearances work, to varying degrees. Granted, this is a more firm, complete capper to a trilogy than Civil War is to the Captain American trilogy, because that's a transition into Avengers. Like that really the Captain America series includes the Avengers mainline series.
Very much so. Yeah. And
so it's got finality. It's one thing that Marvel has never been good at is finality, and this manages, against all odds, to capture some of that, deliver.
And it does it without killing anybody for sort of a cheap Joss Whedon kind of rush or thrill or make an easy cry moment. Everyone's alive at the end. They've kind of just got other interests or other paths that diverge, and it feels like the closing of an era, but life continues on. These characters aren't done experiencing things or doing stuff. They're just, they found a natural resting place for this storyline, this arc of their lives. And I like that very much. I think that's great.
And I'm an advocate of killing people. I'm of more of that school of, include some of that. It's not like there's not plenty of characters lying around this franchise that you could do it with. It worked with Yondu in the last one. Ultimately, my bloodlust is not such that there's anybody I'm like, oh, you should have killed Kraglin or you should have killed Nebula or something in this. It's fine.
I didn't want any of them to die. No.
Yeah. I thought the Star-Lord fake out death was a little odd in that it seemed like it was set up to be a culmination of the Gamora arc for her to reverse him saving her in space in the first movie, and then it's Adam Warlock, but it also didn't feel like it was so played up that it was supposed to be Gamora that it works as a joke that it's actually Adam Warlock saving him. I don't know. It's
you see, I saw the Adam Warlock coming all the way there. It was the only thing that would give him an arc or justify his purpose in the film at all, was him saving Star-Lord at that exact moment.
No, it's fine. And I would say that I felt slightly contrived the going their own ways thing at the end. That because one, I don't know how much I'm invested in Star-Lord's relationship with his grandfather. Just don't much care whether he was still alive or not. And it also they're saying this big tearful goodbye, but this is also all right, guys, I'm going on vacation. I'll be back in 3 months, 6 months, whatever it might be. It didn't seem like it was that big of a goodbye. With Mantis leaving, I was kind of okay, I kind of see what you're talking about, but it's not also I don't know if this is, do you need to walk the earth like Jules in Pulp Fiction? Is that, or can you just join a book club or something outside of this? I don't know. But like I said, it felt like fitting for the end of an era, and they got that feeling across there, which is the hardest thing to do in a Marvel context.
Yeah, who knows when half these characters are back within 2 years, in some other context, will it feel like a finale anymore? I don't know. Does Iron Man 3 feel like a finale? I think on its own it did, but Iron Man would go on to appear in another 7 films after it. So,
maybe not.
Who knows?
Endgame still feels momentous in that way, and like it's closing off an era. Partly because things got bad afterwards.
When Iron Man returns, though, in a few movies for some reason, will it still feel that way?
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Okay. Well, look, this could actually be the end of an era because of all the things that are happening, or maybe they right the ship after this. That'd be great. But either way, this there is a finality to this film. Sort of textually and metatextually. So good for you, Guardians 3. You've provided finality in a few ways, which is the hardest thing in the world to do in a superhero film. So Cool. Well
Hats
done.
off.
Yeah. I guess that's it, man.
Yeah,
We'll talk
see you next
about,
time there's
I don't
one of
know,
these.
Marvels. Are we going to do one for the Marvels? I don't know. We'll
Maybe.
see. But that's a good 6 months off.
I'm curious about that one though. It feels.
I saw the trailer in front of this. It looked kind of okay to me. We'll see.
I did not see the trailer, but it feels just like it's got a weird challenge or combining one element that works in Kamala Khan, one element that I don't care for in Carol Danvers, but kind of works because it's got a great actress, and then Monica Rambeau, who does not work in the slightest. And like, how do you spin those plates? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it'll have to be just a rewrite of Monica Rambeau, which, you know, I don't know, the trailer just might be. But, the conceit is not bad, though. They all keep swapping places across the galaxy. That's not a bad idea for a superhero movie. It could be okay.
No.
Yeah, but it could also be bad. Who knows? Who's making that film? Do we know? Well,
I'm sure we do, but yeah, I looked it up. I'm just saying that one has the potential to be a pleasant surprise. It also has the potential to be a huge disaster. So,
true enough. Okay.
You know,
well,
usually these, like Quantumania, we kind of knew it was going to be okay at worst, and it was.
Yeah. Fair enough. So maybe we'll talk about that in 6 months. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. We got some other stuff first. It's coming out. Oppenheimer. That's coming out this year. Any other big summer movies you're excited for here, Al?
Not really. I think that Oppenheimer is the only one that
kind of a weak summer.
Jumping out at me.
Yeah. I'm excited for Indiana Jones, but you know, kind of more nervous than excited, maybe. But it's on my radar in a big way. But
the thing I'm most excited about for us is getting into Mass Effect.
That's coming too. All right, man. Later,
man.